Hey friends, welcome to Private Club Radio. Pretty awesome show for you today. We've got two very special guests that are going to join us. First, we'll be speaking with Mike Bruni, who is the current chair of the National Club Association, and he also just recently chaired the BMW Championship at his home club, Olympia Fields. So we're going to have a great conversation there. And after that, we'll speak with Brian Friedrichs of Capstone Hospitality. Brian's going to share some tips on how and why to start a wait list for your membership. So, you might be full here after COVID. Hopefully that's the situation you're at your club. And Brian's going to talk to us about why we should not just kind of rest on our laurels, but keep the membership sales going at our clubs and hopefully build that nice wait list of members. So we're going to have some fun. I want to give a big thanks to our sponsors of this show, as always. First of all, I want to say thank you to Peter Nanula and the team at Concert Golf Partners, who provide capital solutions for private clubs all over the country. Also want to give a big thanks to Henry Wallmeyer, Cindy Vizza, and the team at the National Club Association. And we'll be hearing directly from the horse's mouth when we speak to Brian. But big thanks to Capstone Hospitality for supporting this show as well. Without further ado, I'm going to bring on our first guest, who is kind of stuck in traffic right now. It's kind of life in the big city of Chicago. So, Mike, welcome to Private Club Radio, man. What's going on over there?
Thank you, Gabe. My apologies for the background. I was heading into the office and there was an awful accident. Welcome to Chicago. So I pulled on over, and technology allows us to sit right in the car, and there's a Starbucks right afterward.
There you go. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? So anything that could happen on the show we've had dogs jump on people's laps, all sorts of things. So this is pretty easy by comparison. So you're the current chair of the National Club Association. You've sat on the board for 6 years or so now. I'd really just love to hear what your vision is for the organization here during your tenure and then moving forward.
Well, I think it's summed up in a draft of a strategic plan that we're working on right now, and that's to be the preeminent voice for the club industry. Gabe, I think COVID, and you referred to it in your opening segment, it's been an interesting time, but a relatively positive time for clubs. And I think our relevance and impact of clubs through COVID is pretty significant. There's been a lot of questions, a lot of direction needed, and the members of the NCA have networked with each other quite beautifully. Cindy has done such a good job, and the organization has done a good job of communicating. So I think we have to continue to be the preeminent voice for the club industry, and COVID really highlighted the importance of that vision.
Absolutely. You guys did such an incredible job at the association of providing that information during the COVID-19, especially in those first few months. It was really kind of a lifeline for a lot of folks out there. So thank you guys for doing that. You're putting together a 5-year strategic plan right now for the organization. So I'd love to hear more about what you have in store for the NCA.
Well, the NCA has done such a good job for a really long time. And this plan is just to crystallize the efforts and allow the organization to execute on the priorities that we have. And that's to be absolutely the strongest advocate for club industries, to present the best programs possible, and to assure our own financial sustainability so that we can continue to serve the club. So it's really the advocacy. It's the pillars of the organization, Gabe. The advocacy, it's the education. It's really being present for our club members so that they can do their jobs and continue to serve as the advocate for them.
Yeah. Any specific initiatives that you're looking to promote here as you're drawing up this next 5-year plan here?
Yeah, I think the number one place where we can strengthen ourselves is to grow the club pack. We are, without question, the strongest advocate for private clubs. And if we can continue to enhance our club pack, continue to have a presence on the Hill, become aware of the local and state legislative issues that impact our clubs and be smarter about that and be able to communicate that with our local clubs. If we can execute on that initiative, Gabe, I think the star's the limit for the NCA.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. How has sitting on the NCA board been different from these other boards you're a part of? So I believe are you on the board of your club there at Olympia Fields, and you've sat on the board of the BMW Championship, or chaired the board even. What's different about the NCA, and how does that play out?
Well, I've done a couple tour duties on my own board, and I can tell you that it's a heck of a lot more rewarding to really focus on the advocacy issues that are facing clubs than worrying about tee times and menu items, which is an issue that a lot of board clubs get into. And so when NCA really focuses on those legislative issues that really impact the bottom line of clubs. I mean, COVID has clearly impacted and highlighted the importance of clubs. Membership has grown. Again, you alluded to that earlier. I think the biggest difference is at NCA, you really have to think outside of yourself. And it's hard to do that when you're serving on your private club board, right? You have friends and you're trying to warm up and you're in the range and people are talking about the issues that face them. It's just on such a different macro level that it's pretty inspiring to know that our work is impacting clubs in rural areas, in metropolitan areas, those with really bad traffic like Chicago. And so it's really nice to be a part of something a little bigger than yourself. And I think the local level, sometimes we get stuck in the minutia. So
yeah, I was reading an article that you were featured in, and you were really speaking to the fact that it's really not a board's job to kind of get stuck in the minutia, even at their own club. Can you speak to that a little bit more, and what you see club boards really doing their best work at?
Yeah. I have been so impressed by the exposure to the general managers for the clubs throughout. I mean, these are top-notch individuals, men and women alike, that they know the club business. And I think one of the pitfalls of governance at the local level is to get involved in the day-to-day. And I think if we're thinking about the same article, you read the line, "Let leaders lead." They are our leaders, and as board members, our biggest job is to support them, not parent them, and allow the general managers to really execute and manage the clubs that we are the beneficiaries of. And too often, board members get involved in things that the general managers and their staff are fully capable of addressing. So I think that's the biggest issue facing clubs, and the biggest observation I can make is let the leaders lead, because there's some really good individuals out there that are managing clubs.
Yeah, spot on. Operations can be the weeds that a lot of boards get trapped into. What would be, if you were kind of looking back on your experience and speaking to other board members out there, what would be your advice on how to really run an effective and efficient board during their time, their tenure?
Strategy and vision. Boards get engaged too much in issues that distract them from strategy and vision. What is, in fact, the strategy of your club? I'm curious to hear your next guest talk about the importance of building wait lists. What's the strategy around that? And more importantly, you're not alone at the local board level. You've got organizations like NCA, like all of the clubs that are members, and you have remarkable resources to draw from. And I hear a lot from some of the smaller clubs. I don't know if NCA is really all that advantageous for us. We're real small. We're in a rural community. The resource that NCA can provide the local boards so that there's a sounding where boards can interact with each other and learn from each other. It's invaluable. And I think that's the other advantage to think about in regards to you're not alone. There's a lot of clubs facing the same issues, having the same questions. Utilize that network that there is out there for them.
I remember in the early days of doing this show, I was speaking to a number of individuals, Henry from the NCA being one of those, who told me and kind of enlightened me to the fact that the issues that you see develop even at the small clubs are oftentimes the exact same issues you see at the big clubs. And clubs, the issues you see in the United States are very similar to the issues that you see outside the United States internationally. So has that been your experience as well? And have you worked at other clubs other than Olympia Fields? Have you been on any other boards or been a member of other clubs?
Well, I've Olympia Fields is my home club. That's I'm pretty engaged in there with them and plenty busy enough
Sure.
for me. So that's it from my perspective. But what I've learned from the NCA is that the only difference between a $4 million operating budget and a $14 or a $24 million operating budget are a bunch of zeros. I mean, they still have the same HR issues. They still have the same staffing issues. They still have some of the member engagement issues. And so it really, oftentimes, I think, clubs think, well, they're much bigger. They've got multiple courses. And some of those issues are so similar from club to club that I wouldn't ever discount the importance of the network that the NCA provides.
Right, you can learn from people who have been there and done that so many ways. Speaking of that, what are some of the issues that you see on the horizon in the club industry? For instance, is it employment? What are some of the other factors? Are there things in Washington that we should be aware of?
Yeah, from a local standpoint, I think member engagement is the number one reason or number one issue that clubs need to continue to address. COVID has set up a situation where it was the respite, right? It was a safe respite. It was an outdoor sport. There were a lot of people that really used the club as a go-to. Hopefully, we're going to be out of COVID at some point. We've seen a couple promising situations on the horizon for us to get us out of this. How do you keep that engagement? How do you make sure that the numbers that we're seeing now are retained? And I think from a local standpoint, that is without question the one issue. I think on the macro level, at the nation level, I think we're talking about staffing. I think we're talking about taxes. I think those are some of the biggest issues that is going to face clubs. We have obviously issues with immigrant workers that we've got to work through and help clubs through. So I think from a macro level, it's going to be staffing, employment, and HR, along with some taxing issues on green space, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there as well, Mike. I was just reading, I think it was Wall Street Journal article or something saying that I think the hospitality industry was number 2 in terms of think of the drop off that could potentially happen in terms of staffing. And so I'd be interested to know like what would be your solution specifically to, or what would be a couple ideas or things that club boards should be thinking about when it comes to that retention strategy? Like you said, you had a big influence. So many clubs had a big influx of new members here, but we got to keep them and retain them. What would be a couple pieces of advice or things that you would think that clubs should be considering here this year?
Well, it's hard to drive by a club and not hear this click clack of pickleball. And I say that, Gabe, because in my travels and visiting clubs and seeing it, you can see the sport take off. That has not been embraced as much by clubs, and I think the progressive clubs are really embracing new trends like that, like the real influx of participation in racket sports, paddle and pickleball, and how their tennis courts can be converted. I know of 4 instances that clubs have really gone to the mat because you've got varying opinions of should we do it or should we not do it. Staying ahead of the trends and talking to other clubs that have done it and see the engagement that happens, especially in clubs like us in the Midwest where there's no golf, but there's a heck of a lot of paddle sports in the off season.
Sure.
Those are ways to bring value to members. And those debates, you would be surprised at how intense they are. Because a lot of clubs have gone back and forth. Should we give up racket space? Should we build racket space, et cetera, et cetera?
Right.
It's an example of staying ahead of the trends. And it's all about member engagement. You see clubs, Gabe, that have invested in their health and fitness areas. They're getting people to come to the club that may not cost quite as much, and that they're remaining active. To build community is a goal for the club, and those are strategies to do that.
I love it. I'd love to see a community engagement share on all of these clubs. I think that would be a great.
That's a great idea.
Last question for you before I let you go here and get back to your traffic jam and Starbucks, Mike. I can't leave without talking about the BMW Championship and what that was like, especially during COVID. Give me your perspective on it, please.
Gabe, I don't think we've got enough time in this interview to talk about what that journey was like. I mean,
one big lesson. How do we do that, Mike? What was one big lesson you learned doing that through that process?
Oh, you have to be flexible. Absolutely, 100% be flexible. Gabe, the COVID realities were changing almost day by day. I mean, they truly were, and we finally settled on Plan 34, where we finally were able to execute. Let alone wonder if we were even going to have the championship. It was an incredibly scary time for everybody. It put a golf tournament in perspective, but we never lost sight that this championship was about raising money to send deserving young women to college through the Western Golf Association. That was the mission. We tried to keep that in front of us, and it was absolutely imperative to remain focused on that mission and be flexible moving forward with that championship. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, especially because COVID presented, but it was spectacular with a spectacular ending, as we all know.
What a fantastic lesson for all clubs really out there to really have your eye on the prize and the goal, and then everything can sort of align, around that, even amidst the circumstances like what you guys faced. Mike, I enjoyed the conversation immensely. I hope we can do it again real soon. Maybe we'll catch up and see what it's like halfway through your tenure there as chair. I appreciate you taking time out of the traffic here to join us, and hope we can do it again soon, sir.
Gabe, have a great day. Thank you for your time.
All right. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Now, that was a lot of fun. We've got Brian Friedrichs has just popped in over on I believe he's on the East Coast of Florida right now. It's been a while since we talked to him, but there's been a lot of news in Brian's life. So first, I want to catch up, Brian, and tell us what's been going on with you in your personal life.
What's up, Gabe? How you doing?
How's it going?
Good. Yeah, I've got a little baby girl on the way.
Wow! So, oh my goodness!
That's the big news for me.
That's huge! Congratulations, man.
Yeah, thanks.
What's the approximate due date?
January 27th.
All right. Wow.
Yeah, so coming up quick.
New year, new baby. That'll be life changing and transformative.
Yeah, that's the first one. So everyone is telling me my life is going to change, but we're excited.
That's awesome.
So I wanted a little girl, so
congrats.
We're super excited. Yeah,
that's so
we're
cool.
Getting a nursery ready now. That's fun.
Yeah,
building the crib.
Oh wow! Do you have a name picked out yet?
No, nothing's set. We're throwing around some ideas, but nothing. Isla is probably the top one right now.
Isla?
We live on an island. We got married on an island, so.
Would it be ISLA then? Is that
exactly.
Yep. My son plays in a soccer league with a lot of Brazilians, and there's an Isla, but I think she spells it differently, like AELI or something. Anyway,
that's cool.
She's the best though. She's this little, tiny little thing, and she is like a tiger. I always
run circles around everyone.
If you had 11 Islas, they'd have a pretty good team.
Yeah,
it's so aggressive. She's a little tiny thing. It's really funny. All right. Well, obviously, clubs have done very well during the pandemic. I mean, one of the few industries that really has thrived, I would say. I mean, in terms of membership. And that sort of thing. There's other challenges, of course, facing the club industry with labor shortages and that sort of thing. But membership has
been a big thing.
That's been really great for them. I find that it's very easy when the getting is good to get complacent, and I know that you're concerned with that as well. And so I really love for you to shed some light here on the importance of clubs not only having that full membership, but then starting to build that wait list behind them. So if you could kind of set it up for us, Brian, and why you think that that's so important, I'd love to start there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I share the exact same sentiments you just spoke about. It's, we've been really blessed and fortunate throughout COVID where, a lot of industries have not been. So, first and foremost, we're just so thankful that our industry has boomed through this, right? But I think we're also in a really good position to set clubs up for very long-term success, right? And long-term stability. And sometimes I think clubs can get a little complacent once they feel like, oh, wow, we're getting a lot of members in. Our tee sheet is full. Maybe you have a group of members that is complaining about not being able to get their normal tee time as easily. And I think it's really easy for clubs to say, oh, we're capped. We're done. We're going to stop selling memberships. And I truly believe that's a big, big mistake. Multiple of our client clubs right now are on wait list. And what we're working on with them is developing out their wait list, right? Our goal is to get it to about a 5-year wait list, 50, 75 people on it. And then at that point, you're very secure. You can get loans if you need loans. You can reinvest money back into capital improvements, right? You're truly set up for long-term success. So, what I would encourage clubs to do is really look, analyze before pulling the trigger on a wait list. And even if you do go to a wait list, you still need to be actively selling and recruiting new members for that wait list. So first and foremost, right, you think you're getting close to a wait list, look at your bylaws. Look at, do you even have a wait list policy?
Yep.
What is that number? Is it 350 golf? And maybe you're only at 300, but you have a lot of course compaction. Then you probably need to look at the tee sheet and how to manage that better, right?
Sure. Yep. Would you say that that's the number you put out there, like 50 to 75? Is that the number that you would recommend most clubs kind of be looking at for their wait list? Or does it depend on the club size?
I think it depends on the club size, right? Mm-hmm. And your attrition rates, right? If you're getting, 30, 50 membership resignations a year, right? If you're a very big club, it needs to be bigger than that. Right. So I like the 3 to 5 year target because that gives you a lot of wiggle room to work with, right?
Sure.
Club down in South Florida, we've got, I think, like 57 people on the wait list right now. Mm-hmm. And their attrition rates are really low. So, I mean, we really are getting to the point there where it's like, all right, our job's kind of done here. Manage the wait list, and then, we'll come back in whenever you need to actually make some sales. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think it's really important to determine, are you truly capped? And that's right. Dictated by your bylaws, your tee sheet. And is it just golf that's capped? Or is it social? Is it athletic that is capped, right? Most likely it's probably just golf. So I think that's important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you change the marketing message or the sales message when you're kind of getting towards that point for a club?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're in a position of power, right? A really good position to market the club. And one of the things I definitely recommend is if you truly are at a wait list, or even if you're not actually in this market, you probably should be raising your initiation fees. If you haven't done that, raise your initiation fees. Every single club that we are at, we've raised the initiation fees really over the last 2-3 years, step by step, right?
Sure.
And yeah, you can squeeze the marketplace. You can say, hey, we're getting close to a wait list. If you are interested, now's the time to do it. Otherwise, you may be looking at, a 6-month wait, a year wait, whatever it may be.
Right.
So yeah, the messaging definitely needs to change. I think what also is important, if you are getting close to a wait list or you actually are on a wait list, do a full audit of your existing membership categories. What is there a group of 30 people that are in some lower paying dues rate through some sort of special incentive 7 years ago? If so, bump those people up to the full. Full forced attrition is not a bad thing when you're in this type of marketplace. If you can replace existing members as full paying dues members, you may want to think about doing that.
Yeah, how would you go about that process? Because I love it. I remember talking to a business consultant back in the day, and there's basically 3 ways you can increase your bottom line, right? You can bring on new customers in our world, that's members. You can sell more to those members or move them up the ladder or sell more things to them, right? So you're talking about that second one where it's, move them up your product line. How do you go about doing that in a way that doesn't cause tension, but that accomplishes the objective?
Yeah, I think you got to look at it, right? Look at what category they're in, and then just have an open and honest conversation with them. Hey, we love you guys as members. You've been here for 5 years. We want to continue having you as members. Here's where we're at in the club. We feel like this is fair and equitable. And most people are going to understand that, honestly. And if they don't, you got to do what's best for your business and your club sometimes. I think it's just having an open and honest conversation. I find that's typically the best way to approach those situations, as opposed to just sending out like a blanket email to them or something that's very impersonal.
Sure.
Explain it to them. Explain why you're doing this.
Would you begin by kind of raising their dues then and explaining why you're doing that? Would that be the first step, or what would be the first step?
You mean like as far as getting them up to the full?
Yeah, or even if it's like where you kind of price it so that it doesn't make sense to be in that category. You know what I mean? So let's say
I think you just gradually raise it. Maybe you just come up with a plan prior, and have a plan prior to talking to them.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not going to bump you up immediately, but maybe over the course of a year, we're going to incrementally raise your dues until you get to the full, something like that, and throw in a little extra perk if you want to keep them.
Sure.
So I think that's really important. Another good thing to look at is, do you have resignations pending? I know a lot of clubs have different resignation policies where, right now is the resignation period for a lot of clubs in the North, for instance.
Sure.
Are you going to get a big influx of resignations because they can't get their tee times or whatever it may be? And be prepared for that, right? If you're just sitting on your hands, we're at a great place, we're going to stop selling. You may be in trouble in 6 months, 7 months, and then you're behind on the 8 ball a little bit.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What would be the best time well spent, do you think, during this kind of off season for those northern clubs then? Would it start with looking at the bylaws, or what would you recommend?
You mean if they're getting close to a wait list or if they're on a wait list?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, start looking at the bylaws. I think that's the first thing, right? Look at the bylaws, look at your membership count, look at your dues line, and make some, objective decisions based on, not just solely on, hey, I've got, my buddy complaining about he can't get his 10 o'clock tee time on a Saturday, right? I've heard that so many times. And honestly, board presidents, GMs, they're in tough spots right now, right? Because golf has gone up so much. And same thing with head pros, right? They're trying to manage this influx,
right?
Simultaneously having to manage books, right? In different clubs, different circumstances. You have clubs that are for profit, right? And they're like, man, I'm getting killed here. I'm not able to onboard new members, because of this. So I feel for people, no question.
Our club had to we're doing 2 member guests this year because there's so many.
Nice.
It's just, it's
a great problem to have.
That's
honestly.
something.
And then I think, so if you are at a wait list, right, and there's definitely clubs at wait list right now, and there are clubs that are capped and they need to cap. You need to establish your policy and your strategy behind that, right? What does that look like? Are people going to have to put a deposit down? I say absolutely, right? Have them have some skin in the game. Another great question is, are they going to have access while they're on the wait list? I like it.
Like for dining and that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Social.
Give a little taste. Yeah.
Yeah. My wife and I were looking at joining a club here in Atlantic Beach, and they are on like a 3 to 5 year wait list.
Wow.
And so we're like, oh man. But they're doing a really nice job of like engaging with the membership, with the wait list people. They invite them, they allow them to come out once a month for dining. You can play 3 times a year while you're on the wait list. So it keeps you engaged, right?
Right.
Because I think it's real easy if you're sitting on a wait list for 2-3 years to say, hey, there's an opening over at this club, I'm going to get out of there.
Exactly.
Get people in, right? Have them start to establish some of those relationships. And I think you got a much better chance of them actually becoming members when it's their time.
I love that idea. Obviously, that would take a bylaw change, but that's a very good use of law change. I think you're spot on there.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know, again, kind of getting into complacency. So, for instance, my favorite brand out there, bar none, is Rolex, right? And Rolex right now, to get their hot models, pretty much anything you walk in right now, you can't buy anything. There's nothing for sale. But especially the hot models, you're talking a 2 or 3 year wait list, right? To get a Daytona or a Pepsi or something like that. Some of these really hot Rolex models. But it's not as if Rolex kind of stopped the marketing engine or the sales engine. In fact, they might even be ramping it up more so than ever. I mean, do you think that would be a wise decision for clubs as well, to continue to promote that membership and really kind of solidify themselves?
Absolutely. That was going to be my next point. Actually, you read my mind. Is market membership, still sell. And I know that kind of sounds counterintuitive, right? Well, we're at a wait list. Why would we still sell? But this is the point, right? This is the point that you can leverage the market hard, because if you think about the ultimate goal, right? The ultimate, point of, hey, we're a successful club. It's, wow, XYZ club, they're on a 5-year wait list, right? Market that, get that out there, get that out into the community. Hey, and create that sense of urgency. Talk about why you're at a wait list, why things are so great here. No, absolutely. I think it's such a mistake to slow down the engine right now. It's like you have money coming in, everybody's, doing great in clubs, most everybody. There are still some clubs that are struggling, unfortunately. Crank that up. It's no different than like if your business has a banner year and you don't reinvest money into marketing. It's like, why would you not do that?
Yeah. People want what they can't have, right? This is
exactly.
like the golden opportunity when to really, my friend calls it spike the ball, right? I mean, you could.
It's true. Slam it.
When you've got the moat around you, because I don't know about you, but I think things will change pretty quickly as the world opens up, and it's already changing. I mean, there's already so much more competition than there was.
That's right.
In the springtime this year. Do you kind of see that happening? What's your gauge of the market for 2022 and how things might pan out?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought 2021 was going to be a little bit slower in 2020, and it's actually been more intense.
Right.
So we're involved, obviously, with country clubs, a lot of country clubs, but we're also involved with boat clubs.
Yeah.
So Carefree Boat Club, Freedom Boat Club, those types of things.
Oh, I bet those do really well. Yeah.
Yeah, but in 2021 they started slowing down. 2020 it was like explosive, and then 2021 it started slowing down a little bit. And it's interesting, they ramped up quicker in 2020. So I'm kind of thinking that most likely it'll follow that suit, right? I do believe that in 2020 we're going to start, right? People are going to start going on cruises more. They're going to start traveling internationally more. We've had such a monopoly on recreational spend over the last couple of years that when that opens up, there's no question that you're going to start seeing some resignations.
Right.
The inquiries are going to start slowing down. We track all of these trends in our tours, which I think is probably one of the first indicators, right? Our tours have started to slow down a little bit.
Yep.
So I do anticipate. So all the more reason, right, to increase your marketing spend.
Yeah.
Work with companies like you to get on those, online ads, work with us, or just work with your membership director and come up with a strategy for whenever it does start to drop, because it will, it definitely will.
Yep. Yeah. The good times can't keep rolling forever, but the good news is this is the chance you've got.
That's
the clubs have such a golden opportunity really right now, even more so than they did, because again, people are chasing something they can't have, and so make it even a little bit more unattainable for them, and they'll want it even more. How do folks work with you, Brian? How do you guys? How can they get involved and really get their membership, maybe from starting to cap to blasting it off into the stratosphere where they've got that 75-person plus wait list?
Yeah, absolutely. So first things first, just get with us. Give us a call. My cell phone is 561-445-7448. Again, 561-445-7448. We do risk-free complimentary club assessments where we just take a look at your membership categories, what your sales process is. And if it's great, I'll tell you. We've secret shopped so many clubs just wanting to say, hey, will you just do an audit on our sales process? And I'm like, man, your person's killing it. You don't need us. But if there is some opportunities for improvement, we'll create a proposal. The way our fee structures work is we don't make money unless the club's making money. So it's a really win-win type situation. You can also check us out online, www.capstone-hospitality.com. Again, we'd love to have a discreet conversation with you and see if it might make sense for us to work together.
Highly recommend you check out Capstone Hospitality. Brian and his team do a fantastic job, and it's even they go dive even deeper than just membership sales.
Yep.
They really work hand in hand to really get the club moving and grooving in all the right ways. I know on the show we've talked about how you come in and even suggest entertainment and things like that the clubs can bring in, or programming. So there's so many reasons. There's really no downside to just giving Brian and his team a call and just seeing if there's a fit there. So Brian, I'm so pumped for your January 27th, was it, due date? And
January 27th, yep.
That's awesome, man. And I hope,
thank you, man.
I can't wait till we talk again. It's always a blast having you on the show, man.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right, you have a good one. Yeah. Right, and everyone else, thanks so much for joining us today here. Just two great interviews there with Mike and Brian, and I hope we'll catch you back here very soon on another edition of Private Club Radio. Until then, here's to your membership success.